Hello. Today I'm continuing to look at how to plan a better garden. I'm Liz Zorab and this is Byther Farm. This video is a collaboration with Jess over at Roots and Refuge Farm, and if you're not familiar with Jess, well, she'll introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Jess, and this is Roots and Refuge Farm. I'm currently in my greenhouse where I'm just kicking off this year's gardening endeavors, and I just wanted to take a moment and introduce you to my farm.
We keep a herd of dairy goats, Nubians and Lamanchas, which we breed for milk. We also have alpacas for fiber and because they're awesome. We breed a type of pig called Mangalitses for meat, known for their curly hair. And we have a flock of laying hens.
We are homesteading on about 7 acres here in central Arkansas, which is in the southern United States. It's growing zone 7B. This is my raised bed garden, which at the current moment is not much to look at, but in the summer and spring and during the winter, whenever we have a winter garden planted, this cranks out a lot of our big family's food needs.
Jess and I were talking about how excited we are about the new growing season because there's so much to come, there's so much potential. Days like these when the world has almost disappeared in the freezing fog, it's really hard to imagine just how fantastic a growing space this will be. So last time I talked about intentional observation, and now going on from that, the next stage for me is to turn those notes into imaginations of just how much we're likely to grow this year. When I started creating this garden 4 years ago, it was pretty much a blank canvas. It was just a field with grass in it and a few old mature fruit trees. But I had the belief and I had the faith that I could turn it into a really productive space. The soil was really poor quality and had very little life in it, but I knew that if I gave the ground the right ingredients, nature would do its thing and rebuild itself. The next phase of planning your better garden is to do some imagining and some remembering so that you can start seeing the potential for abundance. At first glance, everything on our homestead is in stasis. It's not growing, it's not doing anything. But when you look really closely, you can see all the little buds are starting to form on our fruit trees. And it won't be very long before it's absolutely smothered in blossoms and then leaves, followed by some very, very tasty fruit. Every year I'm surprised and delighted at the way in which this space transforms from a rather sad looking muddy mess into a lush, green, full space that's just bursting with food. So how do we begin this visualizing or imagining process? Well, one of the things that I do is to look back and see what I did in previous years. I've got really good about making sure that I take lots of photographs and now video of what I've planted where and what grew really well and what really didn't flourish. Most of our broad bean harvest it's just dead. Not enough moisture deeper down in the soil, so it hasn't formed deep roots, and then it isn't able to survive the lack of rain. And of course nowadays I draw my inspiration online on the internet, places like Twitter and here on YouTube. There are so many really good gardeners out there creating videos and writing blog posts, so I can continue to learn and be inspired by them. One of the really good things I've learnt is to use panels to create archways, just like Jess does in her garden for growing plants up. Here in the UK I couldn't find cattle panels in the same way that they seem to have them in the States, but I did find these panels, which are 8 foot by 4 foot, and I fixed 2 of them together to form an archway. And in this tunnel I've got roses growing up them, and during the summer I had spaghetti squashes as well. And I draw inspiration from other places, places like Hampton Court Palace with its 0.8 acre, the same size as our whole plot. They have a no dig vegetable garden there, which I just think is beautiful. And from Wisley, where I visited, what a delight it is. There's masses of things like the cup and saucer plant here, so there's lots and lots of things to encourage pollinators. And even by the French beans, there are salvias at the bottom to encourage the bees and other pollinators to visit. So I'm just going to have a quick look round, and then I'm going to have a really proper look round and just spend, well, I don't know, another hour or so feeling very, very envious of such a beautiful garden. And I get inspired by friends' gardens, and also members of my Facebook group who post photos of their gardens and what they're doing, all of which inspire me in various different ways around the garden. And when I look at those really huge palatial gardens, I try and think how I could scale those ideas down to work on our site. And sometimes I'm inspired by seeing an image of a terrarium, a really small glass jar with plants in it, and it sets me thinking about companion planting or something like that. So I try and draw inspiration from anywhere that I can, and scale it up or scale it down so it will work in my garden. If you're finding value in this video, please give it a thumbs up or leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more gardening, homesteading and tutorial videos. We do have quite a few beds that appear to be almost empty, except for these sticks sticking up all the way through it, and they're to remind me where the perennial beans are planted. And at this time of year, when all the beds have in them is a deep layer of mulch, that's when I really have to start using my imagination about where I want things to be and the potential for their growth this year. I'm often asked about the varieties that we grow and where to get the seeds from, so I've pulled together a list of every variety that we grew last year, all the plants that are growing in our garden here. And if you'd like access to those lists, all you need to do is sign up for our newsletter, and in our next newsletter there will be a link taking you through to some hidden pages on our website where you'll be able to peruse those. I'll leave a link in the description box so you can sign up for our newsletter. In late January, we still have plenty of food in the ground waiting to be harvested. Things like the dill, which died down in the autumn, has come back again already. Some celeriac for a little bit later in spring, some beetroot, and the Hamburg parsley, which is a parsley, but we eat the roots of it. So our beds are still quite full, and it reminds me that actually the growing process does continue through a really long season here. We garden in the equivalent of zone 8B, so it's quite a mild climate. It doesn't get excessively hot, except for maybe a couple of years ago. It doesn't get excessively cold, except for maybe 3 years ago, but generally we don't get the huge extremes of heat or cold that there are in other places. So in this temperate climate we can grow a really wide range of fruit and vegetables over a really long period. I find it incredible that each year I plant these tiny weeny seeds into soil, and that they grow into plants so rapidly and so willingly, and I continue to remind myself that nature just wants to grow. In this area I've planted onions and shallots and some elephant garlic, and they'll get interplanted with carrots in 3 or 4 months' time. And I think it's important to remember, just as Rome wasn't built in a day, creating your garden isn't going to happen instantly either. This garden has changed significantly over the last 4 years, partly through observing and trial and error, and things that I thought I would do. Some of them have just taken longer than I expected them to, and other things have taken longer by design. So this area on both sides of me here, my patron's garden and the market garden, were both chicken fields to start with temporary fencing, which we took out bit by bit and created these other areas. But I wanted the birds in here, partly because I wanted the birds, but also by them being in here, the soil fertility has been improved and increased, and it also gave me time to concentrate on other areas, the more productive areas, before I came and did the floral garden. This long border is pretty much all flowers, because I wanted something attractive and that would also attract pollinators. So I built this just about a year ago, filled it with perennial flowers. Inevitably there are weeds in it, so I have to keep on top of those a little bit. So this was built in our 3rd year here, and it will take a while for it to fill out, and I'm not in any hurry for it to happen. I put annuals in it this year to give it some colour and to fill the gaps, and over the next few years hopefully the perennials will spread and fill this area, and then this border will pretty much look after itself. Over this winter I've been researching more plants to put in this border. These are all edible plants, but they're also highly ornamental, and that's the thing about the downtime in winter and very early spring. It gives you the opportunity to explore more ideas and to start to build a framework for how you want to put those things into your garden.
In the 6 years that we've been homesteading, we've learned so many lessons, and we're still learning. We've learned to care for animals. We've learned to garden organically. But one of the things that has been one of the greatest joys that we really didn't see coming was getting to share it with you guys. Because of the YouTube community, we're able to share our experience and to invite you in. And so thank you for visiting today, and I will see you again soon.
So Jess and I invite you to join this collaboration and tell us what you've been doing over the winter and early spring to prepare for your new garden, and to share your hints and tips to turn that potential into an abundance.